Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dual Screens podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Fontana, and with me, as always, he's over there. He's my brethren from another Methrin and Dathrin. He's Andy Asimakis. How are you?
I'm really loving that intro.
You like it?
Brethren,
Brethren,
Methrin
Methrin,
thing you do.
Dathrin.
Stevie boy, if you had
Yeah.
asked me circa maybe several years back,
Yeah.
what is my favorite genre in all of the gaming world, likely would have said horror.
Yeah.
But I feel nowadays
Oh,
roguelike is encroaching
yeah.
into that favorite territory. Like this is
Wait till
the
you get
new
your hands
shit.
on a roguelike horror game.
This is the new shit.
Wait till that happens. You're just gonna,
And
you're just gonna shit
yeah.
yourself. You're gonna need the pens.
When a new one pops up, I'm like, all right, let's see what you got. Roguelike. And today we got some roguelike shit.
Oh
on the show.
boy, do we? Because ladies and gentlemen, joining us this week, we have Michael and we have Andrew, the developers of Below the Stone, a hand-drawn pixel art roguelike about dwarves on a quest for the deepest depths and wherever descent will lead to the new adventures. That's right. So
reading is hard.
Reading is hard. But here's the thing. Well, that sentence confused me a little bit.
There's commas for a reason.
It confused me. It confused me. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Hey, thanks for having us. I appreciate, being able to talk about the game and meet you guys and, be able to talk about a little bit of indie roguelike horror a little bit.
Oh, wow. That's a whole other show.
Yeah.
I was about to say I was a little bit jealous of the Brethren introduction.
Okay.
But when you guys start talking about, introducing, I got to say, appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We are brethren for the last, I don't know. We're approaching 10 years, Andy.
Oh, God, so long.
Actually, I think we passed it. I don't know. Math is hard.
So a lot of things are hard today on the show.
A lot of things. So Below the Stone, this thing, this little guy, this little gem, PAX East, we played it, and people ask me, "Oh, how was it? What was it like?" And I was like, Stardew? They're like, "Yeah, is it Stardew?" I was like, "Well, relax. Remember the dungeon crawling aspect, like the mining and all that? Yeah. It's that, but the game." Like that part, but the game. And they're like, "Oh, that sounds dope. That's my favorite part." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely it is." So, with that in mind, why don't one of you guys tell our listeners exactly what is Below the Stone? And don't say worms, because we all know that.
Well, worms is correct, right? So, but we got some dwarves down there. Below the Stone is, as you described earlier, it's a pixel art roguelike about dwarves. It does a lot of inspiration comes from Stardew Valley, as you said. As you said, it was kind of crazy how often we got this at the show. It's almost like Stardew Valley, but imagine if the mining section was like its own game and like a full encompassed experience,
Fleshed out experience.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't like the end also.
Yeah, exactly.
Part of it, yeah, absolutely. Because you could really ignore the caves in Stardew. Like if you start a multiplayer session, one of your friends could do all the mining for you, and you could just kind of play on the farm and build relationships, whatever. But this is like, no, you're gonna go into this thing. And it's not like as levels. It's not like it was much bigger than that, and it was a lot like you can go left, right. You could chip away any walls to make your own path anywhere, find a bunch of hidden secrets. It was hard as shit. Like I was getting my dick kicked in, like inverted penis, by the time my demo was done. But luckily I was able to extract it, and we're back to normal now. But yeah, why don't you go into a little bit of how your cave diving experience in Below the Stone would differ from a Stardew's cave sections.
Well, I gotta say, we don't have like an insurance policy on the inverse dick thing, unfortunately.
Oh, I have very good insurance, so they took care of it. Yeah,
but
large deductible though. But
when you have a micro penis, it's negligible. So it doesn't really
a strong gust of wind could do some damage. You know what I mean? You just got to be careful.
I gotta say, I relate with this issue.
I'm not allowed to ride roller coasters.
Yeah, exactly.
The force does damage. Sorry, this conversation is getting way off the rails. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to Dual Screens.
But the thing that makes Below the Stone kind of different is we did take a lot of inspiration from all these games we enjoyed growing up, right? A lot of people say they see a little bit of Minecraft in it. A lot of people say they see a little bit of Terraria in it. People say they see a little bit of Stardew. And these are all games that we enjoyed watching and playing. And I'm sure a lot of people that, are part of our community see the same thing, and they make suggestions kind of along these lines as well. But, the thing that really makes it different is kind of the formula that we do with roguelike, right? Like normally what you see in a roguelike is you go down, you die, and then it's like, okay, restart. Go down, you die, restart. Go down, die, restart. And it's just repeat. So the way we did it, where you can actually extract materials and actually gain resources every time you dive down the cave. The mission isn't about just going down and seeing how far you get and then dying, right? The mission of this game is you're actually going down, collecting resources, and actually helping your future runs by getting these materials and using those materials to craft new equipment, craft new armor, new weapons, and then go down further using those resources. So it's like, it's almost how roguelikes, they're kind of like skill progression, where it's like you're gaining all the skills and learning how to play it, and that's what gets you deeper. It's a little bit of that, but also gaining resources and using those resources to help you descend further as well. So it's like a combination of those two things. Another thing is we specifically focus on the variety of like biomes and environments in this game. And, we don't want to make it where, you're playing the game and you see the same enemy or creature over and over and over and over. So
yeah, it's a much more open, it's a much more open-ended, like kind of, you could do a lot of different things,
Yeah.
Well, go into that a little bit. What kind of different things could our players be expecting?
Well, right now we're planning on having around 50 biomes, right? So usually when a game says like, we have 10 biomes, I'm like, okay, that's kind of weak, So I was thinking, working as the artist on the game, I think that focusing in on having as much variety as possible. That way, every time you're playing, and that's the thing in roguelikes, right? Eventually there's a kind of a period where it gets kind of dull. You're playing so often, you learn everything, and then eventually you're kind of just like, okay, I just know how to play the game. I know how to, I know every enemy, I know every pattern.
You want to perfect the run, get
exactly, yeah. So there's this idea that having things get thrown at you that are different every time you go down, every time you descend into these caves, that's kind of what we want. We want to make it so every time you go down, it really does feel like you're playing like a new environment, a new kind of, experience every time you go down. That's why we focus on, Andrew might be able to kind of articulate more, but we focus heavily on, procedural generation in the maximum form that could possibly be, not just, traditional roguelikes where it's like room-based procedural generation, like actual like cave formations and how all these biomes form together and everything, where the enemies spawn, where all these things are, it's less of a pattern seeking game and just learning the pattern, and more like there's actually more skill involved and more of that, as I said earlier, like the resource gathering and everything involved as well.
Right.
Fucked, basically.
Yeah.
It's a skill dependent games, and we do not mesh well together at all.
No, give yourself some credit.
I do want to ask though, before you go into more about that generation process, do you guys explain like the loop in your game? Like, for example, like in Hades, you're a deity, you're a god, so you don't really die. Rogue Legacy, it's an inheritance thing where you come back as a descendant of the main character. Is there a plot device in this that explains how
like
you
sort of like a
come
lore
back?
exactly,
yeah. Or is it just
right
like
now? Well, right now the kind of explanation we have is it's kind of like, as you say, it's kind of like a legacy thing where like your character is kind of continuing the legacy of other dwarves going forward. That's kind of what we have in place right now. That might change in the future. There might be a kind of a deeper mystery going on. But
I like intrigue and mystery.
Yeah, exactly. And as you go deeper, you might find, to bring a pun in this, you might dig deeper into the lore. You might see more and more going on.
You're gonna find all the bodies of your descendants just at the bottom of the cave.
Who's piling these bodies?
The bones of the fallen.
50 biomes, that's got to be tough to like diversify 50 different biomes, like, because instantly you think of like the elements, like, okay, this one's going to be like the fire-ish biome. This one's going to be lush and whatever. This one's going to be cold. This one's going to be wet.
Yeah.
But like eventually you're going to be like, okay, this one is the number 6. This one is,
yeah.
you know, like where are you going to get all that diversity? Can you go into a little bit of, maybe give us a, without going too spoilery, but can you give us one of your more interesting biomes, what its theme might be?
Oh, well, we have a couple, like, kind of, the way I look at it, right, is these are caves that like people haven't been in for like thousands of years, right?
Sure.
So and it's in a fantasy world, right? So you know, you can kind of go into the elements, but what I do is the way I think is as you go deeper, things get more alien, right? Things that we've never seen before, things that are like more ancient, things that are like eldritch horrors thing. And as you go deeper, it's like we might have like more traditional, as you're saying, like elements and stuff at the beginning, but as you go deeper, things are just going to get more perhaps horror based, more alien, more magical, and things are just going to get kind of wild as you go deeper and deeper into this, you know, every layer below the stone.
I had no idea there was these kind of elements involved in this game.
Are we going to go into the upside down?
You didn't tell me, Steven, that this is going on.
Well, to be fair, the demo did not have that. The demo had a bunch of skeletons looking to skull fuck me, and that was about where the horror ended.
That should have been your pitch right there. Sold instantly.
Well, we'll add that to the Steam description now.
Oh, so. Please do. Please do.
What horrors lie beneath the stone, below the stone?
Skeleton skull fucking, that would be the first one. Yeah. But I think one of our main you know, every game kind of needs an antagonist, right? Some sort of eldritch being or eldritch horror that lies under the dark. And, you know, I can't spoil too much now. But, you know, I think having it where, you know, as you go deeper, it's almost like the caves are alive in a way, perhaps, right? That perhaps there's a reason the caves are the way they are. And I think kind of having it where we're theming around those dark elements as you're going deeper and deeper below the stone. I think that's kind of where we want to focus on, kind of lore wise.
Have you guys seen this thing? You mentioned this whole thing with the cave being alive. There was a thing I came across a while ago. It was a theme park some guy created, like this fictional theme park based on this.
Oh yeah,
supermass. It was like this living entity that was underground, and
I think it was called like Meat Canyon. No, that's a YouTuber.
Right. Well, something along those lines.
It was something like that. Yeah.
It was, they came across this entity that was alive in these caves, and they built this theme park around it.
Yeah. There's actually a biome kind of based on that, actually.
Oh, yes.
So it's for anybody listening, Mystery Flesh Pit. That's what
it was. Yeah. Yes,
Mystery Flesh Pit.
There you go. So actually there is a biome based on Mystery Flesh Pit, where there's like kind of a flesh growing in the caves and stuff. And, you know, that's kind of what we go into with like ideas for biomes and stuff, right? It's like, once you go past the elements and magic and stuff, things can kind of go in a horror route. Things can go in like a magical route. You know, there's so many directions you can go with it. And, you know, this was kind of the problem early on when we were thinking about the game. It's like, okay, how many biomes can we really do for a cave? It's like caves are known for a couple things: dirt, stone, lava, water. It's like, okay,
lime.
And then lime, maybe spider dens and stuff. And it's like, okay, as we're going through, you know, how far can we go with this? And I'm like, okay, I think going for a strong number like 50 unique, having a big list of biomes that every time you go down, it's like completely, you're running into new things each time. I think that is what we want to focus on.
You see it, you're like, what the heck is this? What did I just stumble across?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like every time you go in, it's like, okay, how do I approach this? I've never seen this flesh pit biome before. What kind of things are down here? And then you start running into like flesh monsters. Like, whoa, you know, new attack patterns and new things, and you know, new resources that come from them. Maybe you can make potions using something that they drop specifically. You know, it's like every time you're going down, you're not just finding new environments, but like new resources as well. So that'll help you in, you know, future deep dives in this game.
This feeds the addiction, doesn't it?
I think the most important thing about or takeaway from the demo that I played was that it feels really good to play. Like, it's chaos. It absolutely is chaos. It's like, oh my god, I aggroed the entire dungeon. It's there. Everyone's coming to get me, but it feels good to like move around and swipe and do what you got to do. But I do want to talk a little bit about what kind of equipment and or advantages or technologies or whatever are you building towards each one of your runs. What kind of stuff can the player expect to unlock, etc.
Yeah, maybe Andrew can elaborate more, but one of the things we want to make it where, to kind of go into what your last point was, which was, I believe you were talking about specifically not just items that you can bring down, but what was it? Specifically biomes you could explore, or
it was like the equipment that you need, or what are you actually reaching towards, building towards when you're going from biome to biome.
Yeah, so like every time you're going down, you're going to be able to obviously craft like new armor, new tools, new pickaxes, new weapons. We have plans for, these are dwarves, so they're engineers, right? So we're talking about having different kind of like steampunky kind of guns, flamethrowers. You're really kind of mowing down through these creatures and stuff, and you're kind of exploring.
At least I hope you are, because I was ill-equipped to handle the amount of things that I got running after me in my playthrough.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, go ahead, Andrew.
I think there might be even like, and this is kind of one of the things I had in mind. I think Mike knew I wanted to say this probably, but like also on top of like, like some of the stereotypical, like, oh yeah, you could craft, a sword or an axe or a hammer or, what have you, like weapons that you would be assuming that would be in the game, but there might even be a lot of things you can make, or a lot of different weapons that you can find even that you might not be expecting. We want the player to have not just one way to deal with situations in the caves and, whether it be enemies or random hazards or things like that. We want players to be able to invent new strategies or new ways to deal with situations. So there could be like traps, or maybe potentially even like, because I know this is one thing that I sensed very strongly when I watched other people playing our game at PAX, was that, there's always going to be more enemies if you just keep walking. And sometimes you just want to avoid them. You don't want to attack them. You just want to like get away from them. Mm-hmm. And because of the pathfinding, they can find you no matter what. So there's no escape.
There's no escape.
Unless, of course, maybe you had some way to like block them off and like actually create temporary barricades that they could break through, but it's a way to kind of buy yourself time so you can strategize, dig into a wall, try to escape somehow, so that it's not just like, oh, the only way to deal with enemies is to cut their heads off. You have other ways to deal with those issues, whatever way you want. So
a head cutting off kind of guy.
Yeah,
that's my primary approach.
I'm a shoot from afar and snare and funnel enemies and confuse them and blah blah blah. Are we gonna have like magical abilities, like like, I don't know, mind control or some shit? I don't know.
Yeah, the shit that dwarves are known for is the mind control.
Well,
necromancy.
They're potentially necromancers you find down there. And when you kill a necromancer, what does a necromancer drop? The Necronomicon. So perhaps there's a way you can find some of this stuff.
Perhaps.
So I think when you kind of go into it, as Andrew said, enemies are going to be able to drop things, or there might be dungeons that have like these really rare, like legendary weapons that you can find down there. That you'll want to hoard away in your bank and whatnot. But really, this is kind of, we want to also, you were kind of touching on like, is it going to be magic in the game, right? And you said you're kind of a ranged player. You're kind of somebody who likes to cut the heads off of enemies. Have either of you kind of played Terraria at all?
Yeah,
I haven't. No. I have not.
I played it a little bit. Yeah,
Terraria kind of has like this thing where it's not like a class tree that you can pick out things from. It's more like the equipment you wear determines your class, right? And that's what we want to do with Below the Stone, where like what you wear kind of makes your class. So it's like if you wear a certain armor set, right, it'll be like, okay, you get a bonus to like when you're using crossbows and certain kind of like dwarven guns and stuff like that. So you can kind of play that range class. And you can also play kind of a melee class or kind of a tanky class, or, just by changing your equipment and what you prepare every time you descend, you're able to change the way you're playing from run to run. You can actually change your class and like how you decide to go about this certain cave system.
Is there an endpoint? You mentioned progression in terms of your character, resource gathering, becoming stronger for each fresh run. As you're getting stronger and better at the game, does a story progress? Does it have like an ending, a start, middle, finish, like a credits rolling scenario?
I think there's only so far you can dig below the stone, right?
Mm-hmm.
They eventually hit the
Right.
core, or eventually get to the other side.
Or China.
Or China.
That's the rumor anyway.
Correct. Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah. That's what I was told.
That would be it. I've tried, believe me.
That's the 50th biome. It's just communist China. Here it is.
The Easter egg China biome. But one of the things, I almost forgot the question. The moment we go into
when
China,
does it end?
My mind. So we want to make it where I don't know if I kind of went into this before, but we kind of have that Stardew Valley connection where you're actually able to save these characters underground, right, and bring them back to this Dwarven Kingdom area, which is kind of like your hub area where you do all your crafting, you do all your storing your weapons, you do and when you save these characters, you'll start to do like enchanting, crafting potions, picking up missions at this bar area, reforging your armor, discovering new blueprints and stuff that you can craft, right? So every time you go down, you're kind of like saving all these characters, and eventually you're going to culminate kind of like this actual kingdom that you've almost built yourself by saving all these characters all over the place. And when you do that, there's probably going to be kind of like this ending where you're going to discover like what truly lies in this cave, what kind of magic lurks down there. And, eventually there's going to be this ending where you're actually going to encounter the reason the caves are like the way they are.
I love it. Can you save the wrong people? Like that, if it's a necromancer, for example, like, come back to my little village, you'll do some good here. He's like, fuck, here we go.
Could be interesting.
They fell for it.
That would be pretty interesting. You save like the necromancer's assistant wouldn't be the right word. That makes me think he's like wearing a suit or something. Apprentice.
It's like some Dark Souls shit.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You trust no one in those games, because you never know, they might kill like your waifu NPC behind your back while you're out questing or some shit.
Exactly. Or things start happening at the kingdom while you're gone. You're like, okay, what's going on here? That could actually be kind of cool. I like that idea.
To consider.
I'm gonna start writing down some notes right now.
Not just a headphone rack, my friends.
Yeah.
We have a consulting fee. It's $300 an hour.
Well, on that note, I do want to ask a more broader question. Do you think it's the best time or the worst time to release or make a roguelike game? It's a very crowded arena, and you got to stand out. So it's either it's a very popular genre and we'll hit on that, that trend, or we have to make ours rise above this sea of noise in a very crowded genre. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think specifically when you go into like game development in general, right? Like any genre, you're kind of thinking about this stuff, right? If your genre is kind of like I suppose not as populated, right? You're more thinking like, okay, we're going to stand out just on the merits of us being this genre, right? But in a roguelike space where there's a lot going on, it's kind of like, how do you stand out? How do you make this unique? How do you make this kind of go into something new and fresh? And every time you play it, that's one of the things in a roguelike, right? Like it by nature of it being a roguelike, the idea is it's repetitive, right? It's like you do a run and then you come back and you start over. You do a run, you come back, you start over. And it's like, how do you make that feel unique every time you do it? And how do you, not only that, but like, how do you make the environments different? How do you make the visuals different? How do you make it feel like every time you're doing it, you feel like you're progressing or going somewhere with it. So with Below the Stone specifically, you know, you kind of have that meta progression of like actually saving these characters and bringing them back to the kingdom. I don't see some roguelikes do that, right? Like Enter the Gungeon would be an example, right? Another game that people kind of compare. I really love that game. So when people say like, "Oh, this looks like Enter the Gungeon," I'm like, "Oh, awesome, thank you." You know, so there's that. A little bit of Stardew Valley in it. You know, it's kind of like you're kind of mixing and matching a couple different things together to make this roguelike feel like games that don't feel like a roguelike, but also, you know, kind of stands out as its own unique roguelike as well.
Genre mixing, sort of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. For me, like Andy knows, I'm not a big roguelike fan. I don't like the idea that everything I did was a waste of time. So a lot of games will do very, very minimal progression. I like Returnal kicked my ass. Like Returnal was a really difficult, but I also loved the gameplay loop. Like it was so much fun to play that unless I was getting my ass kicked for 3 hours at a time, I could do short spurts, have some fun. But that's the thing about roguelike is they're so different from each other. There are so many different variations of that genre. Whereas if you tell somebody, hey, I'm making a first-person shooter, everyone instantly knows what that's going to look like. It's going to be a first-person perspective, and you're going to shoot things. Like, that's it. You could say an arena shooter, sure, is different from a multiplayer, whatever, whatever. But if you're making a first-person shooter, we know what that is. If you're making a fighting game, we know what that is. If you're making a Souls-like, we know what that is now. Roguelike has way more room for interpretation. It could be 2D, 3D, isometric. It could be a goddamn chess game. Like it could be anything you could imagine. It could be so many different twists. And I think that helps when you guys are going into a very crowded market. Because again, like the thing that stood out for me wasn't the roguelike elements of it. Like I wasn't even focused on that. I was focused on exploring, gathering a bunch of shit, and the horrors that lied, in wait. It didn't really have. I guess the demo didn't really have that loop front and center, because we really didn't have enough time to really like build that rapport. So maybe as I play a further and further along build, it'll be a little different, but it wasn't formal. Like the exploration was more what I was experiencing. Right. It was the wonder. It was the what's behind this rock. What can I find here? Cool. I wasn't worried about, I got to get a little further this time or anything like that.
Right. So I think like that's kind of what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to make it like, I think the problem with roguelikes a lot of the time is like, well, not necessarily a problem, but like a lot of roguelikes are like, and I think it's from person to person, right? Mm-hmm. Some people like the huge difficulty of like, you have to start over everything. Like
it's a grind.
It's a right. And in our case, it's more like, you kind of get to take it at your own pace, kind of roguelike. Some people call that a roguelite. I think, the thing is like with this game, we're trying to make it where, you're kind of focusing on exploring, you're doing, all this crafting stuff. It's not necessarily about like the death, right? In a lot of roguelikes, we're thinking about like, okay, you get to this point and then die. In this, we're specifically focusing in on, it's actually what you accomplish during your run, all that resource, all the things you find during that run and bringing it back to the surface and storing it away or using it on your next run. I think that's what sets us apart from, the other traditional roguelikes.
Yeah, I like that little safety net where you don't feel like everything you've done is at a complete loss to you. You can bring something back. You can fail, but there's a success in that failure when you can bring all these resources with you. Then the next time you're fresh for a new run, you're better, stronger, more experienced.
Exactly.
And then more fun. And then which allows you to get even better equipment and resources.
Yeah. And you can take it. Yeah, you can take it like full speed, 200 miles an hour and, go as fast as you want with like no armor and really make it hard on yourself, or you could like take your time with it, gather the resources that you need, and just kind of you can craft like additional sets of armor if you wanted, just in case your character dies. You're like, okay, it wasn't that bad, I had extra sets at home, okay, I can wear this. And as I said, the speedrunner might just go and be like, okay, fuck it, I'm just going in, nothing, I'm just gonna go in naked and then just
underwear.
Yeah, exactly.
And a club.
Exactly. Underwear and a club, and then
So what do you
Neanderthal run?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you take back what do you keep when your character dies?
So when your character dies, you keep nothing. That's where the roguelike comes in.
So you have to decide, that's as far as I want to go.
Yep.
I'm gonna go back now. And if I remember correctly, was it like a recall or something like that? Like I forgot.
Yeah, it was along those lines where basically before you go into the caves, there's going to be a mission or several missions that you can select. And when you complete those missions, you'll be able to call down a drill pod to rescue you, and you can locate that. There's going to be one final wave of enemies that attack you from the sound and whatnot that the drill pod creates. And we're probably going to add different styles of like recall, where there might be like mages that summon you out of the caves or something. You have to like protect the mages, and there's going to be kind of a variety with that.
That's cool.
Where each
That's
time,
very cool.
Yeah, where even after every run is complete, there's kind of like a little bit of variety where you won't know, okay, now the mages are going to save me, okay, now the drill pod's going to get me out, or maybe you have to locate like a certain thing to kind of get me out of here. So not only that, but also kind of going into, and Andrew might be able to elaborate more, but just making it where every descent kind of again feels different, but even in its escape and whatnot.
Yeah, it's kind of like I had this while you were saying that, I was kind of thinking like, yeah, it's like one game I like to compare as kind of a case comparison is, of course, Enter the Gungeon, where each time you play it, it's like, okay, it's the same thing over and over and over. There's some people that will play, like I've played it and I just get tired of it eventually. Some people get frustrated more than other people do, but I'll just play it and I enjoy, doing it. And it's the same thing every time. You're avoiding bullets, and it feels like it doesn't give you enough room to just kind of like say, okay, I want to stop right now. I want to kind of stop, go back to the safe zone and, strategize. It feels like there's very little strategy, very little open-endedness to it. And that's kind of what we're trying to improve, I would say, in roguelikes in general.
Yeah, it's why I like Moonlighter so much. The idea of like you're hunting in a dungeon for things to sell in your shop, and then you can say, you know what? I'm low on health. If I go any further, I'm gonna lose all this precious shit. I'm just gonna hightail it back to the village and just open up shop and sell the goods.
Yeah, you have that option.
I like that. It's like that amount of freedom, I think, is what the genre needs more of. Like, it's not just all do or die. Where like every ride is about every run's about the run itself and not anything before or after.
Every run could have its own success. Like there's something you're going to get out of it, and it's not just, oh, I found a new enemy that I now know the pattern of. Like, okay, but you may never see that enemy again because you may suck for your next 12 runs, and you'll never get to that point again. Like, I can't tell you how many times in Returnal that like I'll get up to the boss in the 3rd biome, and I'm like, yes, I got up to it, but like that getting up to that point again is not a guarantee. Like, it takes hours sometimes to get back to that point. So yeah, totally, like that's what really intrigues me about your game, about Below the Stone, because it really did feel like I had a little bit more say in how my run was going to go. I could decide whether or not I wanted to go just dig into this wall until I found something, or if I said, okay, here's the things I can see, let me get those first, see where I'm at there. Can I finish a mission just by doing that? Like gathering a certain material. That material's all right in front of me. Great, let's get out of here. Or, well, there's got to be something else right behind this wall. And it's surprised it's 50 skeletons. But I mean, that's fine though. Like that's the risk and reward part. There has to be risk for reward, you know, like that I think is like the tenet of the genre. It's the risk reward aspect of it, but I think it's so important to have some long term growth and like actual physical in-game growth.
Yeah, exactly.
Outside of just, oh, my skills are better. Like, nah, fuck
Yeah.
that. Your skills
And the
may
thing is,
never
like,
get
you
better.
can exactly. And the thing is, like, you can go like a week without playing or like a month without playing, and then you come back and you're like kind of rusty again, and then you're like learning everything all over again. So kind of being like, let's say you just not able to play for a week, right? You come back and it's like, okay, I have all my gear in my bank. I can, equip some of the stuff I had stored away. You can take it at your own pace. I don't think that makes the game like a soft core roguelike.
Yeah, like, it doesn't make it less challenging. It just makes
yeah.
it the challenge different. It's a different
Exactly.
It's a different taste. That's
Exactly.
really what it comes down to. Yeah.
I love that softcore roguelike.
I don't know what word would describe that. I guess
it's like, on the Showtime channel, like in the late hours on the weekend, what they would show, like adults only kind of shit. It's like, what is this bullshit?
Exactly.
We're not punishing you for playing our game. Like a lot of roguelikes, it might feel like the developers are like smiting you for playing your game. It's like, no, you should have some like more options as a player, but also feel like when you do things in the game, it feels like there's a lot of value to it, because you didn't just, it's not like Gary's Mod or a Sandbox where it's like you can just get whatever you want, and it feels like the value behind getting those things is zero because you just spawned it in. Whereas here it's like, it's difficult, but you have the options and the freedoms. You're not punished for making a small mistake. Maybe you have the ability to play things as you want to play them. You're not punished to just enjoy the game.
Yeah, then it's my fault that I get smoted. It's like, well, you're not playing my game right. Well, eat my ass.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's why don't you give us some behind the scenes goofy shit? What fun stuff happens when developing a game that involves procedural generation and all these elements kind of commingling and coalescing? Give us some fun development stories along your journey in creating this fun little roguelike title.
A lot of headaches. I mean, it's been like really a lot of headaches, a lot of intense thinking. And I learned a lot just from working on this project. A lot of things that, like, prior to us even starting Below the Stone initially, starting to actually write the code for it, there's a lot of things I just didn't know how to do. Like, I had a general idea, but I never actually tried to do it. And so things like procedural generation, my initial attempts at doing it was like really bad, really crappy. And so I had to like iterate multiple times and be like, okay, you know what, this code, scrap it. Like something as simple as the ores, the way they spawn. I was like, okay, how should I spawn ores in a way that works? And I thought, okay, how is the way I thought, the first thing I thought was, okay, let me not reinvent the wheel here. How have other games done like ore generation in the tiles? And so I was like, okay, how did Minecraft do it? And I kind of looked at, did some deep research into like the algorithms for how they did it. And I was like, okay, let me try that. I tried it and I was like, okay, it's not really working. Let me try doing a different way, maybe make my own implementation. That worked. Things like, the levels are large. So here's a different thing is like the levels are gigantic. So the computer can't process the whole thing all at once. It has to like only process a piece of it. And so it's like, okay, how do I do that? Well, other games have done something similar. So it's like, again, why reinvent the wheel? Okay, so instead I'm only going to load obviously just the area around the player, stuff like that. And a lot of this stuff I never did before. And I was like, I'm probably going to screw this up. But no, I didn't screw it up. It took a few iterations, but it's, one of those things where, you just you learn as you go. And I think like, I would say the funniest, like you're talking about like the funniest stuff. This is just me kind of rambling about these like technical hurdles, but like
everyday dev shit.
Yeah, everyday dev shit. It's just like, if I had like, if I was like an industry pro, which I wasn't when I started, but if I was, we'd be a lot further along. I had, we were building this in Unity engine, and I had basically zero experience with Unity engine and C# when we started. And so I just kind of I made a lot of mistakes during the beginning. You know, it took us many years, honestly, to kind of figure out how to actually develop, like, to have the animations for the characters, how that would actually function. I had to like take one version and then I had to scrap it and try a new version and stuff like that. You know, a lot of, you know, I would say like funny bits is like trying to, you know, I think at some point, like we would have, like you could throw flares. So there's also like different objects that you can use that emit light.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, like we had like one or two like people, like close friends of ours who'd like play test the game and help us play test it. And
they would like screenshots of like,
yeah, they would have like tons of flares from this all over their screen. It would be an absolute mess. And and as a developer, I'd be like, oh my gosh, it would annoy me a little bit, but at the same time, I'm like, this is good. We need someone to test the game and like
we need somebody to break the game. We need this.
Exactly. So yeah,
I think I want that job. Just to break games for a living. I'll do that shit all day long in my office, you know. You make a controller, I'll have at it. I can walk through all these walls.
Yeah, believe me. I was talking with somebody earlier about this, where there's just like, you'll look at like, when you look at your screen, just like a simple like UI of like, I don't know, like a crafting menu. Like for a solid week, I was just like, okay, how the hell am I going to design this thing to live forever, right? Because it's like, okay, this can't be something where in like, you know, 6 months from now we have to replace it. This has to live forever, you know, throughout the entire development of the game. We can't just like redo the entire UI again. So it's kind of like sitting there for a week, just kind of like designing all the different menus and stuff. So like just looking at like a simple screen, like you got to realize some of these games, like they just take like, you know, like you can look at a screenshot of any game and you can be like, okay, everything on that screen took like a month to develop, you know, or more. So it's kind of crazy. Yeah.
Just patch it a new UI at some point, you know.
Yeah.
Just, throw it in there, you know.
Yeah.
Hey guys, update version 1.2. Whole brand spanking new UI. But it's intense because it's like you have to commit in the end. And this is your first major game that you guys are making together. So I imagine in the process it's a lot of uncertainty and questioning, and then this is the final, but the final, it's been our 8th final at this point. We have to settle what our final version of this is.
Yeah.
To get it out the door. So I get it. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. We, you know, just the whole story of like getting to meet like Apogee and our publisher, forming this team, you know, it's really just a kind of a crazy story. Our Kickstarter, you know, everything leading to getting this game out has just been kind of like this wild ride.
You can expand on that if you like, because I feel it's a big part of your story,
what
leading up to that moment. Yeah.
What part do you want to hear first?
Give me the sauciest bits. I don't know. Whatever.
Okay.
If I was penning your like memoirs, you'd give me the good stuff.
Okay. So, let's I guess we can talk about this. You know, there was this. We had an original Kickstarter, right? Back in 2019, I believe, October 2019. And we set a goal at like $10,000, which for anybody developing an indie game, that's not enough to make like a full length, like pay everyone fairly, you know,
super modest.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, it was like, okay, this is what we can do right now. I think 10,000 is something that we can try to work with, and you know, every bit helps us, and you know, let's see what we can do here. And with our Kickstarter, we only raised like 5,000 out of the original 10,000 goal. So for anybody who doesn't know Kickstarter, if you don't raise the full amount, you don't get anything. It's kind of like it just cuts off and says, okay, you don't get anything. But from that, we ended up having like probably like hundreds of new fans that came and like saw our Kickstarter. They're like, oh, this looks awesome. This looks amazing. We'd love you to keep making this game. And we were like, okay, I think clearly we have something here. A lot of people seem to like it. Let's see where we can go with this. You know, at that time, it was me and Andrew and our composer, Karam. And we ended up getting like publishers messaging us, like dozens of publishers from our Kickstarter. I was like, okay.
Wow.
I had a bad experience with a publisher once, like kind of acting a little bit fishy, right? So I was like, my totally normal reaction to a bunch of publishers messaging me was, I'm just going to start blocking them. So
so what is that? Is that left or right swipe on? I don't know.
I think it's left
dating apps these days.
So totally normal reaction to a bunch of publishers offering you money is, okay, left swipe, left. So I was like, okay. And Apogee messaged me, and I ended up swiping left, as you would say, and so I ended up blocking them. And then they messaged me on, I believe, my Twitter, and I was like, okay, block. And then another one of them messaged me on Discord. I'm like, okay, why do these guys keep messaging me? Block. And then somehow they found my Facebook, and I was like, okay,
they were persistent. They wore you down.
And I was like, okay, if they're willing to, if Apogee is interested in this game, if this is supposedly Apogee, I didn't even believe it was Apogee at the time. I was like, okay, who's this Apogee guy, and who's pretending to be Apogee
John
right
Apogee?
Yeah. Who's this John Apogee right now?
The thirst is real, boys.
and I went through, and I was like, okay, is this the real deal? Is this really Apogee? I haven't heard about them in a while, and I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. Ended up organizing a call, had a call with Scott Miller, and kind of went back and forth for a little while. And I was like, okay, this guy's real.
For sure he is. We heard his voice.
Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, this guy's real. It's a person. It's not a robot. And I was like, okay, after a little while, we went back and forth, talked about what publishing a game would be like for this. And, eventually we came up with a contract and ended up working on something. So not exactly like the most traditional way of meeting a publisher, but that's kind of how it ended up happening.
But I just love how you had one bad experience and then you were just something inside you were like, I'm going to just block them all. Like, this is it. Stay away.
They're all evil.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of like,
they'll all break my heart.
I mean, everyone goes to that with a girl or a boy or something like that.
Right,
so
right.
That's kind of what I was in that phase, right? Where I had a broken heart, and I was like, okay, well, this isn't gonna work. And then eventually, found out these guys are the real deal, and ended up saying like, hey guys, we'd be interested in doing another Kickstarter. This is why you see the banner behind me. We ended up doing another Kickstarter in 2021. And we ended up setting a goal. Instead of 10,000, we did 20,000 as the goal that we wanted to reach. We not only hit the goal, but we doubled it. So we went from
holy shit.
We went from one point where we only were able to raise 5,000 out of a 10,000 goal, right? Which means nothing, to putting the goal as 20,000, so doubling the goal, and then doubling that in the earnings that we made. So it was kind of like this crazy moment where we realized, I was incredibly thankful to everyone, all the fans who kind of came out and like stood with us for all this time and stuck around for everything. And, everybody who like told their friends about it. And, it was this huge buildup to this event. So eventually in 2021 did that. And, we're still working at it today, and hoping for kind of a kind of a early access next year. So
I do want to just expand on one thing about that story, and that's I think the key thing is once you brought a publisher on, it's two varying like scenarios, like at the end of the spectrum, more or less. I think a lot of young indie devs are always a little shy about signing a contract because they think it's like, I see dollar signs. Where do I sign? So what did having a publisher do for you that allowed you to not only get your initial 10K, but then further surpass that with a huge surplus of funds at the end of your second attempt?
Yeah,
at Kickstarter.
I mean, obviously, Apogee is pretty well known by a lot of people, right? And I think kind of going into it, it's like really, I think like going to these events like PAX, going to conventions and stuff, being able to show the game off to all these new people. I mean, you guys got to play it at PAX East, you know, so it's like we wouldn't be having this interview right now had I not, you know, ended up associating with Apogee, right, and signing with Apogee. So it's like, you know, it doesn't offer, you know, signing with a publisher for anybody who's like an inspiring indie dev listening, you know, it's like a publisher isn't just like, you know, the Looney Tunes where like big dollar signs are popping out of your eyes. It's like, you know, it's like there's so much more that you know, get from something like that. And, you know, not just that, but like the experiences of meeting new people, meeting the people you work with the publisher. So, you know, and it all started with me blocking them. So kind of went from one end of the spectrum to the complete opposite of the spectrum on that.
Did you end up unblocking the other ones as just a make good? You're just like, okay.
Tell them no.
By the way, I'm sorry about that. No, I mean, I did end up unblocking them, and you know, we talked about it. They were completely understanding. Like I told them about, you know, how I had like a really shitty experience with like it was a very it's kind of like one of these publishers that like seem kind of like shady, and ended up having
one of those mobile game publishers.
Yeah, it was kind of like that.
Let's get 1,000 games, release them all at once, and take our percentage.
Exactly.
Or a predatory contract or something like that. Because I've heard about stories about you'll have publishers where they're, you know, looking to sign with people who are, you know, our age, young and naive, and you know, they're aspiring to do something, and you'll have publishers, and it not even just the video game industry. I've heard of stories of like in the music industry where
music is awful.
Yeah.
Publishers, and the you know, if a contract is like quite large, quite significant, you know, you don't realize there might be some like clauses in there saying, you know, the publishers are allowed to do a certain thing, and it's just like, you know, they can, you know, that, and that's not really great.
They kind of make up the rules. There's no standard template. Like they'll say, "Oh, this is standard," but you look and you're like, "Wait, you not only own the IP, but like
my kidneys are yours."
Yeah,
in this
deal. if I'm not allowed to use my face anymore, like what does that even mean? Like I can't.
Rights to my limbs? What?
Speaking of your limbs, now it's time to put your limbs up as collateral because we're getting into rapid fire. So get ready. But before we get into rapid fire, we want to thank our listeners for checking us out. Remember, this is the Dual Screens podcast. We are the internet's #1 indie developer interview podcast. Probably, we hope, maybe. We post each and every week on your listening podcast service of choice, and of course, we are on YouTube.com/DualScreensTV, and we have our other podcasts. We have Indies Nuts podcast, and we have the Dual Screens Crossplay podcast, which record live on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/DualScreenStreams, and of course we'll post later on their respective channels as well, and on our YouTube channel. So please like, subscribe, comment, share, all that fun stuff that everybody asks you to do. But also, if you want to support us with your hard-earned dollar bills, you can do so by going to patreon.com/NDSpodcast. Just like our Patreon producers, Colton the Apprentice Nestler and FNH Paul. We cannot continue to grow without all of your support, and as little as $1 gets you bonus episodes and access to our VIP Discord space for you to hang out and talk video games and life and all that fun stuff with us and our developer guests. All right, with all that fancy talk out of the way. Andy,
so much fancy.
It is time to get into rapid fire. This is where we get to know yous beneath the stone. Below the stone that makes your soul. Okay, we're getting to the nitty gritty. What horrors lie beneath? Let's find out. Andrew.
A lot.
If not dwarves, then what?
Not dwarves, then what?
We're getting really dark here.
If not dwarves, then what?
Not elves.
What?
Not elves.
Not elves. Yeah, not elves. I should say that. Definitely not elves. I would say,
for any elf listeners right now,
I would say wizards. Wizards.
Yeah.
Wizards. Okay.
Michael,
Yeah.
If dwarves were illegal, what would their street name be?
Oh God. We got to rewrite that law. All right. I guess I'd be Lil Mike, right? Dwarf Lil. I mean, I mean, not super creative, but I think
okay. You're going with like your street cred name, like your. Well, we're talking about like if it was like a drug.
Yeah, like think Prohibition era, and
like,
you couldn't sell like hooch.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking like rapper name.
No.
Like...
What is it? You know.
If it was,
let's see. If you were the guy with the trench coat peddling dwarves underneath, what would you refer
Dwarven
to them
trafficking, as it were.
Yes.
Okay. Man. Okay.
So Little Mike is a nice little street name for yourself.
I'd pull over in my trench coat and say, "You want some Dwarven delight here?"
Oh, Dwarven delight. I love that.
Yeah. Do you want to delve deep in some Dwarven delight?
Go deep delights. I got some deep delights right here.
Oh yeah.
And and you see in the little pockets like little dwarves kind of like poking their heads out. So
they're happy to be there because
they're definitely happy. Yeah, this is not.
No. Yeah, they are happy to do this.
They're genuinely like delighted to be a part of this. That's why they call it Dwarven delight. They appreciate this.
Right. Now, further question: are you wearing anything underneath the trench coat, or just like full bear, just like?
Well, I think it's full bear. I think that would be more appropriate.
I think that's
is it a literal?
We're connecting this all the way back to the original part of the podcast. This
yes,
is
we are.
Completely.
We always come full circle on the show.
Yeah,
that's what we do around here. Okay. This is both of you can answer this. Okay. You could have varying answers. That's fine. Is cereal a soup?
Andrew, you can get this one. Or are you thinking about it yet? Are you still?
God, is cereal a soup?
Complicated.
I'm gonna say no.
See, I think the answer is the fact that we take so long to answer it. Yeah. I think that's the appropriate answer. The fact that it's taking so long to consider, I think that is the answer.
Interesting.
It's kind of like one of those philosophical, like contemplate your life kind of questions.
I would say it's not though.
Is it also a no for you too, Michael? Or
I think it's a yes. I think it's somewhere in between. It's kind of like this. It's like this legal gray zone.
It absolutely could be,
but it's like if you're asking me like if I had to like be the one determining this law in the same way that like dwarves are illegal. If I was the lawyer, like kind of like deciding
we have to fix this.
Yeah, we have to fix this. I would say one could argue in court that it is a soup.
Yeah, it's true. Andrew, if you could pick one song that would play every time that Michael entered a room, what song would that be?
Oh gosh, I know the first song that came to my mind. It's that Piano Fantasia.
Oh, okay. That's sweet.
The first song that came to my mind. That one, the Wide Putin song.
Yeah, it's a little. That's endearing. Yeah, not gonna fuck him over at all. It's a good answer. That's a strong relationship you guys got there. All right. Now, Michael, how would you do the same to Andrew? What would you pick?
I think he already knows. It would be Moving Out by Billy Joel.
Okay.
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
All right.
Anthony works in the grocery store, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Classy dudes.
Indeed. If you could summon one animal to do your bidding, what animal would it be?
Yeah, these are pretty tough. I'm surprised this is in the rapid fire section because it's just these are like actual like contemplating kind of questions.
Rap is just a label.
Okay.
It has no meaning.
Like an assistant, right?
Yeah, it's your
a cool
butler or something.
Yeah, I think a cool animal. I think everyone would kind of go with like a chimp, right? I think that's like the first little butler chimp, right? I think the most appropriate one that would be still within the circus theme would be elephants, like a little, like an actual assistant elephant, like bringing you your drink with its trunk and everything.
Mm,
That's how I look at it. Yeah, wouldn't fit inside very well. But
yeah, difficult to house, but I could.
Yeah.
Well, if you
Yeah.
get yourself a nice big castle or something.
Yeah.
You a fan of Dumbo growing up, Michael? Is that where that
Yes,
stems from?
yes.
Mhm.
Maybe like a Shetland horse or something. A small horse, maybe.
Small horse. Sir, I have your breakfast. Just like rolls the plate on it.
That is what every horse sounds like in my head. I love it.
They all talk to me.
Like a bit of Stewie when you did that voice.
I'm going with a raven. That's my answer to that question.
No one asked you. Let's see. If you could travel either forwards in time or backwards in time, which way would you go? We'll ask Andrew first.
That's another good thinker. I would say so. Like if you go forwards in time, you might see stuff you don't want to see, but then if you go back in time, it's like it's stuff that you probably already know about or whatever. And can I ask, does going back in time like does it influence the present, or is it like
no? There's no like this isn't like
there's no going back to the future.
You're not gonna like phase out of reality, or if you like, kill your grandmother or some shit like that. It's just
I mean, you'll be there because you are there.
Right.
I would say, I mean, I'd like to do either, but I would say the past, because the future is something, I mean, we're finite beings. We don't live forever, but like, if you go to the past, there's stuff that like, that we're just never going to know because it already happened, but the future it's yet to be determined. So if you go to the future, it's like stuff that is already going to be figured out eventually. It's stuff we're going to figure out. But if you go to the past, you might learn something that is going to be, it's going to be lost to like history, basically.
Interesting. Michael?
I think I'd just go to the past.
Yeah.
Simple answer.
Bet on some sports.
Yeah. Challenge some Romans.
Every single person takes the Biff route. Like,
I was gonna say,
there's nobody else. Nobody
get
would
that
be
almanac,
like,
and you just place them bets. And
like
you build your empire.
I don't need to be an asshole. I don't need to be like a dumb,
Yeah.
like whatever, mogul. But like, shit, I'll take a cool
Exactly.
5 or 6 billion.
Do you teleport there with like all your clothes and everything? Because like you could, and here's a philosophy. Yeah, because you could be like, what happens if you just happen to be carrying like a pile of money when you went back? You know,
just put it in the bank and walk away.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. We'll try and do a quicker one here. Would you rather have the power of flight or invisibility?
I think flight. Invisibility is kind of like what are you going to be doing? Like if anybody found out that you picked invisibility, they're going to be like, okay, why'd you do that? Like we know why you picked invisibility.
Are you pressuring me to pick one or the other now?
I feel attacked every time someone has to like point out the evils of invisibility, because I'd pick it.
No, I'm not saying that you would be right. I'm saying every person.
The perception would be.
I would do some shit. Is what I want to say.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be all goody two shoes.
Like if it was on the news, like he picked invisibility, it's like everybody in the world's going to be like, all right,
why?
Yeah.
Well, then you might as well announce it, I guess, and say like,
exactly.
So I guess I can say I'd pick invisibility because I think there's some.
And
like,
you say I'm invisible.
I'll just announce it. I'll just let everyone know. But even though I could still like, you won't know where I am, so it doesn't matter.
That's a good one. If
I
you
would,
go,
I would invest in like a motion sensing company and then announce it and then watch their stock skyrocket, because no one will want to have me in their house if they know that they couldn't see me.
Andy, let's give you a final question and then I'll take us home.
Let's do the obvious. One of our first questions I forgot to ask. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Andrew, you get this one.
He's already nodding his head.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not that like, I don't like that, but there's some people that like that, and it's just like, you know what? Hey, if other people like it, that's okay,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. All right. Now the final question.
Well, I want to have Michael's answer.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah.
So Andrew's answer was very polite, but
kind.
Very polite and kind, and he was very considerate of others' opinions on the show. But I have to say that pineapple on pizza is a no.
Interesting.
He gets it.
Have you had pineapple on pizza?
I have not actually.
Then you're not allowed to have an opinion. Next. All right. Final question. This is the most difficult question you've ever been asked, period.
Oh, no.
All right.
And you can't delete us and block us. You can't swipe left. This is the number one question.
Steven, the end meeting button is right fucking over there. It is the parachute.
We
the
will
escape
find
hatch.
you. We will find you. You must come to a consensus on your answer.
Must. Okay.
You're gonna invite like the biggest debate and like conversation. These two brains, I sense another hour.
I don't think so.
Of deliberation.
I don't think so. Remember, it is rapid fire.
Okay.
The interpretation is up to you. You can interpret this question any way you like.
Correct.
But it's a simple question. Andy or Steve?
That's like saying Superman or Batman. It's like, it's kind of like everyone had.
I don't know.
Which one of
You're
us
not
is
sure?
Superman and which one of us is Batman?
I got to go with the color theme. I mean, Steve is Superman. Andy is Batman.
Oh, that makes
Based on the color. Right
that
now.
makes me happy in so many ways. Of a guy that has an identity based around Batman that you didn't name him as Batman. Oh, clip it right here.
I love the
Clip it.
background.
Clip it.
Honestly, if I like, I would be a much better Superman than I would be a Batman. Like, way better. I'm just not. I'm one for theatrics. I'm one for just like full force going forward. Like, if I could be the Hulk, like I'd totally choose the Hulk.
I'd be a good Bruce Wayne. Be a playboy and just be drunk off my ass and not give a shit about anyone. I could do that.
I could see you being an excellent Lantern Corps member. So you could use your imagination.
Why would you do that to me?
Because you could use your imagination,
right.
do whatever you want, and it would so many like you'd probably be a Yellow Lantern, let's be honest, or a Blue Lantern maybe, but you'd have like major dildos being created by your
way too many.
Yeah, so many
More
lantern
than
dills.
more than I could ever imagine.
I gotta ask you guys something in return.
No, you haven't answered the question.
Stalling tactic.
Okay.
You haven't answered the question yet. Let's go.
He's like, shit.
What was the question again?
Andy or Steve?
When it comes to
it's a simple question. A baby can answer it.
Okay. Steve, I'm gonna have to say you because you have the Batman behind you right now, and so you guys kind of both win in that because I called him Batman and I said, yeah,
correct.
You're a big Batman fan. I get it.
Yeah, definitely.
Andrew, now do you agree? Because if you don't, you must deliberate and come to a consensus.
I already have my deliberation. I would say Andy because sometimes my mom calls me Andy. So
okay, so that's a very weak answer.
Yeah, but that's also he's set on that answer.
I understand.
It's
not
name.
happening. Okay. Okay, I understand, and I'm not gonna pressure you into coming to a consensus because you know what? I'll take it. I don't want to risk losing this one
because I kind of got some of Michael too a little bit in his answer.
Yeah, and mom trumps all, so like
this is correct.
You know what I mean? Like it's very rare that Michael would win this argument.
But you did ask Michael. You said which Marvel character?
Yeah, which Marvel character would you guys call yourselves? Like to each other.
Ooh.
To each other.
Each other. This is cool. It's a cool
So
twist.
you have to pick for the other person.
Right.
Yeah. Andy. You are. Let me think about this. You're Beast.
I like it. Played by Kelsey
Grammer.
Yeah, I love that.
You're Beast. You're intelligent but just unsightly.
This is correct. Yeah. I am a forest troll. Yes.
Yes, you are. You are a bit of a forest troll. You speak another language, which is you speak exactly 100% more languages than I do.
Correct.
I
am more
reliable
than you are.
Reliable. Probably have a lot of untapped strength. You're not necessarily an adept fighter, but I feel like if the push comes to shove, somebody's getting hurt.
Yeah, I always felt like if I was ever in an actual like fight to the death with like the defensive, I would actually end up killing the other person because I wouldn't know when to stop.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to turn it off. And for you, Stevie boy, I think I would pick, it may surprise you. I think I'd pick Wolverine, Logan.
Interesting.
For you. Because one is the beard, the facial aspect of it.
The gruff look.
You have strong leadership qualities.
Interesting.
But you don't take shit from anybody either. So it's like not a Cyclops leader, but more of like the Logan style of management. Like that's how I see you.
Took a while to get to that point. Also, I am filled with rage.
Also correct.
And if only I had a healing factor, indestructible bones, and claws that retract from my hands, the world would be in trouble. Let's just put it that way. Okay? Let's just put it that way. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to bring us to the end of the program. We want to thank all of you for checking us out. And if you want to follow us on social media, it's so simple. You go to Twitter, the Twitter machine, and you search for us at Duel_screens. I'm at Batchild27. Andy is at PantsGuy. And our Facebook group is facebook.com/groups/DS podcast. Again, if you want to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/NDS podcast. That gets you in our Discord. A lot of fun we have over there. Also, check out our merchandise. We have a lot of cool new pieces of merch up there. We're always adding new items. You can go to duelscreens.com/store to check that out. Gentlemen, where can everybody find you, follow the game, all that fun stuff?
If you go to belowthestone.com, you can find everything you need and more when it comes to Below the Stone.
And if you're lazy and you don't want to type anything in, we have all the links for you. But go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, we have our Discord, our Twitter, everything. You can also wishlist us on Steam via belowthestone.com. So anything you need, it would be right there.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Andrew. That is going to do it for us. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, viewers. And as always, please be excellent to each other.